All right, welcome to my video. This is Mrs. Clark on trig functions. So we're going to go over the basic trig functions. First, I'm going to show you how to fold this piece of paper. The idea is that it folds along this line and along this line. But the way we're going to fold it is we're going to actually fold back. So we're going to fold this one back to the line here. This is the outside of it. And then on the inside, we're going to fold it forward like this. It should line up right here. Maybe a perfect fold depending on how the copier did here. Mine looks to be good. And then you have a choice. You can leave it like this if you'd like to, but you can also cut along these lines here with scissors to make little doors. So this is a personal preference here. You can cut this. You might have to cut it a little bit extra here to cut it all the way through. But the idea would be that you have a little door for each one. So let me cut these. And then what we're going to do is we will put glue on this side, glue this into your notebook once we're done writing on it. All right, so here's what our trig function foldable looks like. All right, so the first trig function that we are going to define here is called the sine function, and the way we're going to remember that is SOH. So here's a little mnemonic device you can use to remember the three basic trig functions. Sine is so, and I'll explain why in just a minute. Cosine is ca, and the third one is called tangent, and that is toa. So if ever you want to share with someone what you're learning in math and you say, I'm learning SOHCAHTOA, there is a very, very good chance that they have also learned that and they will know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. So let's talk about why we call them SOHCAHTOA. So let's look underneath the sign. I'm going to unfold just the sign for right now. I'm going to zoom in a little closer. All right, so sine is actually spelled S-I-N-E. On your calculator, it just is abbreviated S-I-N. But what sine is a trig function where it takes a ratio of some of the sides together, and it allows you to use the calculator and the algorithm set up with it to find certain pieces of a right triangle. It's like the quick, short version of it. So sine of theta, so we're going to write a ratio here. I'm going to actually put the word ratio up here so we remember that's what this means. It's a ratio, but also ratios are fractions. So we're not going to write our ratio in the way that you probably remember doing it in middle school with like the little colon. We're going to write it as a fraction. So the sine function is sine of theta. So sine of an angle sine always goes with the angle. All of these functions go with an angle. It's going to be the ratio of the opposite side over the hypotenuse. So for now, we just need to remember what sine of theta is equal to, and then I will show you how to use it. So remember how we called it so, S for sine, O for opposite, H for hypotenuse. There's our so. So it's a mnemonic device to help you remember sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. So the second trig function, before we go to that, let's label the triangle here. If this is my theta and I'm using the sine, then it usually means that I have the opposite side and I have the hypotenuse, or I have the angle. I have two of these three things. So according to this theta, the opposite would be the side over here. So I would know this side, or would want to find this side. And I would be using the hypotenuse, which is the one across from the right angle. So once we learn how to use sine, we can use sine to find the opposite or the hypotenuse or the angle, depending on what's given to me already in the problem. So sine of this angle theta is equal to the ratio or the fraction of this side over this side. So let's move on to CA. CA stands for cosine. So if you open this up on the inside here, you will see the word cosine. Cosine in your calculator is abbreviated COS. There's a button on there titled COS. You've probably seen that before. Cosine is the ratio of the, notice it said CA, the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. So cosine was adjacent over hypotenuse. That's where our CA comes from. And looking at this theta, adjacent is going to be the side or the leg next to the theta. We know this one is the hypotenuse, because that's the one opposite the 90-degree angle. But I don't want the opposite side. This side I'm focusing on the adjacent side, which is the one down here. So cosine would be the ratio of this leg over this hypotenuse. All right, our last trig function, our TOA here. T stands for tangent. Tangent is going to be equal to opposite over adjacent. So looking on the inside, tangent, or abbreviated tan in your calculator, is opposite over adjacent. So TOA, T-O-A. And in our picture here, if we're looking at theta, opposite is going to be this side. Across from the theta. And adjacent will be this leg next to the theta. And we wouldn't be using the hypotenuse with tangent, because it's only the ratio of the opposite side over the adjacent side. So you can go ahead and fold this up and glue this into your notebook. And next we're going to learn how do we set up these ratios. We'll practice with some numbers and some triangles, and then we'll learn how to use them. Thanks for watching.